And so it is Women's Month on Channel Africa. It is now 24 minutes after 10 Monday night. I want to welcome onto the Power Seat a very special guest tonight. Korkor Cudjoe is the Senior Manager for the Entrepreneurship Program at the Graça Machel Trust. She leads continental initiatives that support women entrepreneurs to access finance, markets, networks, and leadership opportunities. Korkor has worked across Southern, East, and West Africa to design and deliver programs that scale women-owned businesses and strengthen the ecosystem around them. She authored the closing remarks for the business of becoming Women Creating Wealth, Finance and Accounting Services edition, a book published by the Graça Machel Trust in partnership with Facet. The book profiles 60 South African women entrepreneurs from the Women Creating Wealth Ignite program and is anchored in findings from the status of women's financial inclusion in the South African study. Korkor is a strong advocate for financial inclusion, collaboration, and Ubuntu as drivers for Africa's economic future. Korkor, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Happy Women's Month.
Thank you very much. And thank you
Women
for being
need to
a
be
champion
celebrated.
for us.
Yes. Well, you've done quite some exceptional work for women, and you're the Senior Manager for the Entrepreneur Program at the Graça Machel Trust. You've just closed out the business of becoming Women Creating Wealth. What was the moment that convinced you that the book needed to be published?
Thank you very much, Tich. Basically, I think at the Graça Machel Trust, our vision has always been how do we elevate women on top of Africa's development agenda. So we have a slogan, multiplying faces, amplifying voices. So every time we do an initiative like this, which is about how we are advancing women economically, we like to also tell the story and show the evidence that women are capable of being more, and given the opportunity, leveling the playing field against them, they can indeed make more meaningful contribution to Africa's economic development.
The book features 60 South African women entrepreneurs from the finance and accounting sector. Who stood out most for you, and what kind of stories have you included in this edition?
So we basically, the opportunity with Facet was, of course, their area is financial services and accounting. So we targeted those entrepreneurs, 600 of them. But they were also generous enough to say, look, we know that this is beyond just our sector. So where possible, please do include women who could also benefit from this opportunity. And that is why we have a mix of women from financial services sector and accounting. In the financial services, it's also very broad. You can have insurance, you have the traditional training within the financial services sector. They are auditors, they are accountants, but it's all a mix of women entrepreneurs who really are making ends meet to make sure that they are putting food on the table, but also they are really contributing meaningfully to South Africa's economic development agenda. So in terms of, I think you mentioned, you asked earlier, I think for us, Graça Machel Trust, in terms of telling the narrative of women, is also really, really important to us. I said, multiplying face and amplifying voice is our slogan. We want to know that as best as possible, we are sharing and telling the stories of these women. And in this opportunity, it's around 600 women, but we chose 10% of them, which is why we have the 60. And to be honest, I think the thing with us is that we also want women to show up. So having taken you through this initiative to build confidence, courage, agency, we put a call out there and we took those 60 women who dared to put their foot forward to get their stories told. Thank you.
Wow. Graça is about 80 years old. Is she still very active in this line of business?
Absolutely. She is our inspiration. when you see her energy, her ambition, even at that age, uh, those of us who are a little bit younger cannot, but just buckle up and do more, because you think, wow, if you can still be so driven at that age, how much more those of us who are younger.
What a story. What a legend. Ms. Graça Machel wrote the foreword saying her dream is for women to occupy every table where Africa's future is decided, not just as guests, but as leaders. What did that mean for you when you were working on this project?
I think really that stays the agenda of Graça Machel Trust. We really want to see women rise to become leaders in not in the usual way. I think we're very good at community and social kind of settings, etc. But we believe that it's important for women to rise as leaders across all sectors of our society, be it in business, be it in politics. She's come from a political background, and she really champions this women's economic advancement across the globe. She's also very passionate about adolescents. So one of our signature program is also about building the next vision of the next leaders, which is adolescent movement. So it's really across all those lines that we do this work. And it's really when she said, my dream has always been and will be is to see women as leaders. That is really what the Graça Machel Trust is trying to do. We're trying to really get women to know they can be more. And in fact, and indeed, they must be more, because when women show up fully in their potential as leaders, I think our partnership with our male counterpart will strengthen, because women bring something very different. We bring a sensitivity that is very different from men. And I think together we complement each other. And that is why we want to also inspire women to not make it optional. Where you can, step up and lead in your area, because it matters. So that when decisions are made, women can't say we were excluded. Because I think we live in a system now that actually allows us to do that. It's harder, it's not easy because it's challenging, but more of us need to have the courage to step up and say, I'm not waiting or looking over my shoulder to see who's coming. I am the one I've been waiting for.
True. Love
Thank
it.
you.
Coco, the project has empowered more than 600 women. And, we are really grateful. But how does the Women Creating Wealth Ignite program actually empower other entrepreneurs who may want to be connected to you today?
Yeah. Actually, the program has reached 6,400 women across 7 countries.
Wow.
South Africa, Malawi, Zambia, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, and Senegal. So it's a bigger number than the 600. Our partnership with financial services and accounting CETA is that 600, but we're definitely 10 times more than that number. The program, really, the thesis of this program has always been about the research that says that entrepreneurship amongst women in Africa is really accelerating. The only challenge is that these businesses remain small, right? So we set a very audacious goal to say our first milestone will be to reach 10,000 women who create $1 billion and 200,000 jobs in 5 years. This we set in 2023 once we had enough partners to scale the program. So partners, we have financial services CETA for this one with the 600. We have one with MasterCard Foundation called the Intergenerational Edition. That is with 3,500. And we have had Visa Foundation, the Industrial Development Corporation, IDC, and many others, and also AFAWA, which is the AFDB AFAWA initiative. We've had multiple partners to be able to build towards this 10,000 women, and we're still open with more partnerships to be able to reach our first milestone. After this milestone, we want to be reaching 100,000 across the continent. In South Africa, actually, we have the largest number out of the 6,400. We've reached about 2,400 in South Africa. thanks to the partnership with Financial Services CETA, with the IDC, and of course with MasterCard Foundation, Visa Foundation, and all of them that came together. And European Union, actually, European Union as well. Thank you.
Yeah, way to go. You've been working very closely with all these women that have been part of your program. What are they facing as perhaps their most biggest challenge or barriers, and how can they overcome these?
Yeah, I would say for us, that's why in our program, we always started with personal mastery and leadership, because entrepreneurship is a wild, open field where nobody is going to hand you a free lunch or anything. So you need to have your resilience, your persistence, and mindset to have all that done. So we start with personal mastery and leadership as core to our program. So that for us, because if it was easy to do, most women would have done it. We know it's not easy for women to rise and pivot their businesses from micro survivalist. I think many of us will tell the stories of how our mothers' enterprises have taken us through education,
True.
put food on the table, all those things. I think that is well and good, and we must continue to do more. Getting to the next level is where I think we're trying to say, inspire a new level of confidence for us to be able to do that. So that is one. The other area, obviously, is, and actually, this is what many entrepreneurs say once they've been through our program, which deals on many aspects of the entrepreneurship journey. What next? We're saying that as much as that resilience and persistence is important, market access and finance have both a demand and supply side issue. When I say a demand side, it's about your agency as an entrepreneur to be able to bootstrap, to make sure that you know your market, you do your market research to understand where the opportunities are and everything. And also, when it comes to access to finance, access to finance is a function of also formalization and compliance. Nobody gives you the money without meeting those requirements. So there's a lot, when I say demand side, there's a lot that the entrepreneurs themselves need to do and prepare themselves towards advancing and accessing markets and finance. And then there's also a systems issue around, when we talk about preferential procurement, for instance. So in many countries, they've only set aside 10 to 30%. Why is it 10 to 30% when actually we live in a society where women are 50-50? And also, what are some of the issues around confidence? Of course, our male counterpart, many of them have been in the system for a long time. They have a lot of networks that enables them to really transact and get some of these advantages. I want to be frank that when we talk about the male counterparts, I'm saying that generally the SME sector, it has a challenge for anybody who's participating there.
Yeah.
Of course, more than others. And sometimes actually when we look at the figures, we see that the difference between some of these issues about market access and finance for people in the SME sector, the gender issue is not so big, but we still have to talk about it because bringing women into space for them to do what they've not been comfortable doing requires a different opportunity setting, a different awareness. And when I say awareness, I mean to the women out themselves. Women need to know that nobody is going to come and save them. We need to save ourselves, but we do it as a collective because that's how government will recognize our effort and say, all these policy provisions are there. Often women don't even have the confidence to engage with it. So that's also another thing that we do to say, in terms of the advocacy and policy provisions that are provided for women, right, to advance market access and finance, how do we build their confidence to be able to engage with it and hold government accountable to make sure that these things happen? So, simply said, to summarize, personal mastery, leadership, mindset is really important. Market access and finance and how we're enabling all that from both demand side and supply side is really important. We advocate to women that's why we also work as collectives, because when you're doing it as a collective, it's less scary than when you're trying to do it alone.
Yeah.
I hope I've answered that. Thank you.
Yes, you did. So Korkor, Unfortunately, today's society is ravaged by fragmentation. Although everybody's got a device, there's not enough mentorship. How can they connect with your movement?
Yes. So we have actually set up a marketplace and a mentorship program online. Like I said, we really also, with 6,400 community of entrepreneurs in seven countries, we really want to make sure that we also start with what we have. If we can make a dent with this 6,400, I think it will be a game changer on the continent. And that's what we are really looking to do. So we've set up all those interventions. We have champions in the countries to make sure that what we are offering in terms of the business community work, which is really about women doing it for themselves. You see what happens with us as a not-for-profit organization. When we are supporting entrepreneurship initiatives like this, we want to be careful because I started with saying that the market out there for business is rough. You don't want to start thinking like as if you're a not-for-profit organization. I think there are social enterprises that we work with, which is great. They have impact measurement of how they measure success, which may be social outcomes, etc. Majority have to be playing in the market. So even as we are working with them, I think we understand that we as Graça Machel Trust are trying to level the playing field for entrepreneurs. But once we take them through the program, build the confidence, open their minds up to mentorship and coaching, technical coaching, etc., we also expect the women to start seeing how they invest in their futures through paying for mentorship, paying for technical coaching, paying for additional opportunities of master classes, because lifelong learning is also the entrepreneurial game. So this business community we have built, we really we have everything there set up. We have a mentorship platform, we have the marketplace, but we can't keep saying that everything is going to be done for free. Even what we can call free is paying it forward. If you benefited from this program, how do you bring on board another 5 women or mentor 5 women who, and many of the women are doing it, by the way. I think this is also another reason why we invest in women, because we know that women invest a lot more. The studies tell us women invest a lot more in families and communities than our male counterparts. So
Coco, I'm going to have to
without.
just Coco, I'm going to have to
Sorry.
interrupt you and stop you for just a couple of
Okay, all
seconds.
right.
We need to take a very quick commercial break. We'll be right back. It's a Power Sit on a Monday night. It's good to have Coco as we talk about the empowerment of women through the Graça Machel Trust. Welcome back, Coco. We're talking about mentorship, networking, and inclusion for young women in Africa.
Yes, thank you. So we're saying that all that I think is really important as we're building the next generation of entrepreneurs to make sure that they are mentored, because that saves the mistakes that many of us would have made when we get into business. So we absolutely see the role of mentorship, technical coaching, etc. We have all that on offer. I think that anybody who's part of our community know that there's that access. Firstly, the program would have offered it to them together with the training that we do. We offer that mentorship and technical assistance. What I'm saying is that I think it's important that we also encourage more women to know that once they have had that opportunity, they can also invest more in it. Mentorship is often free, but technical coaching and that sort of thing, often people have to pay for. We also know, like I say, there are lots of women who are so appreciate the opportunity that Graça Machel Trust has given them that they are putting forward their time to mentor others. So that is on the go, and we will continue to do that. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. So you've done very well in Southern Africa, East and West Africa. What will it take to replicate this kind of impact to touch all the four corners of the African continent?
I think it's just scale up. Like I said, we've reached 6,400 of our first milestone of 10,000. We're looking for more partners. We're looking to deepen partnerships with those that we've already worked with, like Mastercard Foundation, Facet, IDC, and AFAWA. the partners that we've worked with before, because I think there's a lot of lessons when you scale up that you can bring into the next iteration. So we're looking, it's all about, we're not for profit organization. So we really do look for our partners to want to go deeper with us and to change more lives. So that is the only thing that is stopping us. We are ready to take the lessons forward and strengthen and scale the program further to all parts of the continent.
Korkor, what is perhaps the most important lesson you've learned from the South African experience?
I think South Africa has many, many more opportunities, I think, than the rest of the continent. I think through the BEE scorecard and enterprise development, there is so much finance, market access opportunities for women entrepreneurs. I think I was in business for 15 years, and I say, honestly, as a South African woman in business, if you are not succeeding, I don't know where, if you are not succeeding in South Africa, I don't know where else you do better. Because there's so many opportunities open to women to do better. And I think in part is strategy, in part is effort, in part it's also about not taking what you have in South Africa for granted. Because I think there's a lot that is on offer for a lot of women entrepreneurs. And to be honest, I'm not sure if sometimes we also take it for granted, right? We also know that there's always the danger. 1 in 5 businesses will survive after 5 years, even after enterprise development initiatives like this. That is why we're building the community, to make sure that we continue to inspire, also create this agency to say that when you get government opportunities, a systems opportunity like you have through the BEE scorecard, etc., really use it, but think like as if you are still in that wild market, because that's what's going to keep you alive. And also challenge yourself to go beyond the borders, because that's also is what's going to keep you alive. This is what I say to our entrepreneurs a lot, because when I travel from South Africa to the different parts of the continent, what I see is a lot of white men. And I keep asking myself, what are they taking to the rest of the continent that we are not seeing women, South African women and men taking to the continent? So all I'm saying is I think there's a lot of opportunities. Let's open our eyes beyond the South African borders, because there's a lot of opportunity to grow businesses outside the continent. And also with the AfCFTA, the Africa Free Continental Trade Area, I think it's opened up huge opportunities for us to also look at how we trade across the borders. With the Graça Machel Trust intervention with Women Creating Wealth, for instance, we are in 7 countries. We are bringing a business exchange in October, where we want to bring all these women together in South Africa to see. But before then, we also need to just check what they are interested in trading. Let's just check from each side what opportunities are there, so that we can foster and curate a very important business exchange that opens up the opportunity beyond any one country borders, because I think the AfCFTA opportunity is huge. And if Africa is only known to trade amongst each other to the extent of, say, 15%, where the global average is about 45%, we have a long way to go as Africans in terms of how we trade with each other to expand our markets beyond our comfortable borders.
Korkor, for a young lady who's listening to us tonight, what kind of mindset shift should they employ in order for them to upscale their business and be able to deal with Africa with the potential it has?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, when entrepreneurs apply to programs like this, we would like them to take it seriously. Sometimes you get people applying and they think they're applying because they'll get some easy money or something, there'll be grants thrown at them. I think that mindset needs to change. What is good is that many of them, if they persevere through our program, they start to see a different thing. Persevering through your own personal mastery and agency and leadership. Leadership is really important for us. And then also, the issue of understanding how to win markets through negotiation, through the e-commerce opportunities, how to, go beyond grant funding, because grant funding never grew a big business. We have to start taking risk capital, because that also creates a kind of an edge for the entrepreneur to say, I really need to grow beyond my comfort zone because somebody's going to be knocking on my door to get their money back. How am I going to be paying? I think all those issues are really, really important. I think
Okay.
young people do have a lot of advantage. I would always say that if you're in business, look for a promoter, look for a mentor, look for
Mm,
technical advice because you want to be able to pivot. And young people in this day and age with AI technology and all that, they can pivot so quickly. Also, always remember that your best selling proposition is what problem are you solving? If you
mm,
start a business that you can answer, what problem am I solving? I think you're not going anywhere fast because it could be a copycat business. These are all things that we do in our program. We have something called ideas to business where you need to research and test a minimal viable product in a week
mm.
to see the viability of it. But the research is the most important thing. You have to know that there is a real market. And indeed, when you test the product within 7 days, you will get somebody who wants to pay for it because that's what confirms that you do have a business. I think
Okay.
there's a
Hey.
lot of
Mm,
support for
yeah.
young people to do business, and we must
Fantastic.
continue to support them. But they
Mm,
also need to not think it's going to be quick. Business is a sweat one. You have to sweat. I don't think anybody did a big business or grew a big business without some sweat. I think the
yes.
mindset to say it's going to be quick and easy, it's not. Give yourself 3 to 5 years to be able to see the business grow. We have a lot of youth in our program. One of the things we're realizing is that a lot of them are doing online business and stuff, but it hasn't been grounded in formalizing, putting systems in place so that you can scale the business because that's the next frontier. I think a lot of youth are bootstrapping and hustling to kind of make things happen. That's fine. But you need to also bring your head down to say, how do I formalize this? What are the growth levers? There's so much, knowledge out there. Whether with a program like us at the Graça Machel Trust, there's a lot online. There's a lot online on offer from governments. So it's really about just getting somebody to hold you accountable to what it is that you're doing or that you want to do. I think for us at the Graça Machel Trust in our Women Creating a Program, goal setting is really important for us.
Hey,
You
Coco,
need to
thank you
be
so much
able to
for having
set a
joined
goal.
us tonight. Time is always an enemy, but we're going to be talking empowerment for women this month, and we hope to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Tich.
Stay with us right here on African Diaries.